Welcome to this explainer. Look, today we're tackling a mystery that's driving competitive players absolutely up the wall. We're going to figure out exactly why some players completely dominate PvP, while others, the ones with the exact same dragons and troop counts, just get utterly crushed. If you want to stop losing those nail-biter fights, we need to dig into what's happening beneath the surface. So here's a scenario we see all the time, right? You've dropped an incredible amount of time and probably a serious chunk of resources getting your top dragons to 6 or even 8 stars. You launch an attack against an opponent who looks evenly matched on paper, but bam, you still lose the report. Why? Well, it actually comes down to a massive, heavily underestimated hidden power gap in the game. And to put that into perspective, top players in the community who love to crunch the combat math have calculated that you could be fighting with a staggering 23% damage and 23% damage reduction deficit if you're ignoring this one specific system. I mean, that is just an enormous statistical hole to dig yourself out of, and it all revolves around heirlooms. So today, we're going to demystify the heirloom system. We'll quickly cover the hidden PvP power gap, understand the core heirloom mechanics, look at the holy trinity of stats, discuss how to hyper-focus your builds, and finally wrap up with how to maximize your spend and grind. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the hidden PvP power gap. As top competitive players have noted in community discussions, while the ever-shifting dragon meta absolutely matters, you can't rely on just one side of the coin. You can't just cap your heirlooms and run into battle with a 1-star dragon, right? The reality is that combining a solid 6-star dragon with truly awesome, highly leveled heirlooms is the actual sweet spot for dominating your server. It really comes down to how you view your investments. Dragon star viability shifts constantly. The meta changes, new dragons drop, and old favorites kind of fall off. But heirlooms? Heirlooms provide permanent house power. They're lasting symbols of your strength that persist across every single reign and future campaign. They are literally the bedrock of your combat effectiveness. Moving right along to Section 2, understanding heirloom mechanics. To put it simply, heirlooms are a permanent progression system tied directly to your house level. Think of your house level as the gatekeeper to your potential. You increase this level by earning house experience, which you get by doing the usual stuff, logging in daily, completing chapter quests, and finishing events. The higher your house level, the more heirloom power you can tap into. Now, you need to constantly grind that house experience because the most powerful new heirloom branches don't just sit there waiting for you. They only unlock at very specific milestones. For instance, you hit new tiers at levels 17, 28, 39, and 50. And once those tiers unlock, you then have to actually purchase the specific upgrades within them. To fund these massive upgrades, you'll need 4 specific currencies. You'll grind runic fragments by defeating encounters and hedge knights. You can grab Valyrian tablets from events, collect Dragonlord scrolls from claiming resource tiles, and gather amplifier seals from a mix of tiles, encounters, and hatchery chests.
Okay, let's dive into Section 3, the holy trinity of stats.
Look, it is incredibly easy to fall into a trap here. Early in the season, PvE stats like lumber and iron income or increased XP gain look super tempting. And sure, a tiny bit of resource help is fine, but heavy investment here will completely ruin your late-game performance. By the time the massive battles start, you absolutely need to be heavily invested in pure PvP stats. Otherwise, well, congratulations. You've just built a highly efficient resource farm for your enemies to raid. The community consensus is totally clear on this point. And honestly, it dictates the entire combat meta. Whoever strikes first usually wins the fight. This makes initiative the absolute king of the battlefield. If you can guarantee your high-damage dragons get their abilities off before the enemy even twitches, you've practically won before the report is even generated. Because of this, the holy trinity of stats that you must prioritize are initiative for that devastating first strike advantage, damage done so you can actually punch up against massive whale accounts, and damage reduction for sheer survivability. So, if an heirloom node offers one of these 3, it should literally be at the absolute top of your shopping list. And here is the hidden math that catches so many players off guard. Let's say you invest in a base node, like a level 15 damage heirloom. You get a 10% base damage boost. But when you combine that with the center amplifier seals, which give an extra 50% amplification, that 10% turns into a massive 15% total bonus damage. It's these multiplying synergies that create those massive stat gaps we talked about earlier. Next up is Section 4, hyper-focusing your builds. Because heirloom materials are notoriously slow and painful to grind, you simply cannot be a generalist. Now, the general community priority ranking for troop focus often puts warriors and champions at the top, followed by hunters, and finally sentinels. But listen, you shouldn't blindly follow this list. You need to focus heavily on just one or two troop types at most. To put it simply, your heirloom choices have to directly mirror your dragon roster. If the game has blessed you with incredibly high-star dragons that favor hunters, you need to ignore the popular warrior meta and build your heirlooms entirely around hunters. You want to maximize that specific synergy for your top two marches, and honestly, just ignore the rest until later seasons. Finally, let's jump into Section 5, Maximizing Spend and Grind. Securing high-level tiles on the world map isn't just about regular resources. It is an absolute necessity for your heirloom materials. To put it in perspective, controlling a level 12 tile generates 3 times the hourly passive material income of a level 10 tile. You have to push for these higher-level tiles as early as your armies can handle them. To stay truly competitive, you have to treat your stamina as a precious resource. Never, ever let it sit capped at maximum. Constantly burn it on encounters. Use your resolve specifically on hedge knights for those runic fragments. And don't be afraid to take a couple hundred minor troop losses to secure those level 10 plus tiles. Also, strategically speaking, if you're just a few Valerian tablets short of a massive PvP upgrade, it is totally worth substituting them with a few hundred gold to secure that clutch power spike. But the absolute biggest takeaway of all is this: do not go AFK. Remember, because heirlooms are a permanent, persisting progression system, taking a break from grinding these daily resources leaves a gap between you and the active players that is practically unbridgeable. You can't just come back a week later and easily swipe a credit card to fix a neglected heirloom tree. So as you head back into the game and look at your daily tasks, I want you to ask yourself a question. Are you just chasing temporary dragon stars that might shift out of the meta next month? Or are you ready to grind for the permanent house power needed to truly rule the realm? Keep those heirlooms leveled, hyper-focus those stats, and I'll see you on the battlefield.